I'm JJ Ramberg, and this is Local to Global, The Power of Small Business, a podcast series from GZERO's Blue Circle Studios, produced in partnership with Mastercard. We live in a world of incredible choice. Take planning a vacation. We get to choose where we go anywhere in the world. We choose our hotel, where we want to eat, what we want to do, how long we want to stay. But one of the other things we get to choose is what kind of impact we're having on our planet. What if, on that vacation, you wore clothes that you bought secondhand, traveled with a suitcase that you've repaired and replaced parts on over the years, and stayed in a hotel made from upcycled building materials and running its own water recycling system? That's the way many people are starting to think. Consumerism's relationship to environmental sustainability is rapidly evolving, and small businesses around the globe are tapping into the growing market for circular goods and services. It's a market that consumers are demanding, and a smart way to recapture value in the life cycle of a product. Participation in this economy isn't just good for the planet, it is good for business. It can cut costs, unlock new revenue, reduce dependency on volatile supply streams. Notable examples include the booming secondary market for fashion online and the use of deconstruction as a sustainable alternative to traditional demolition. By designing with reuse and longevity in mind and offering seamless ways for consumers to embrace circular choices, companies can do well financially while also doing good for people and the planet. The global circular economy is estimated to still be under 10% of the total economic activity, but there is significant room for investment and growth. Joining us to talk about the potential here is Ellen Jackowski, Chief Sustainability Officer at Mastercard. Ellen, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, JJ.
And also Rachel McShane, the Chief Financial Officer at Depop, an e-commerce company whose mission is to make fashion circular and reduce waste. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
All right, Ellen, I want to start with you by just giving us some definitions. Explain to me what the circular economy is, how big is it, and how is it different than what we might think of as recycling?
So, a linear economy, that's the economy that we know best, follows a take, make, dispose model, where we're extracting resources, creating products, and then discarding them as waste. In contrast, there's a circular economy. This aims to eliminate waste by keeping the materials in use for as long as possible through things like reuse, repair, refurbishment, recycling. And the whole point there is to regenerate natural systems. In many ways, circularity is also kind of the traditional approach, right? Before there was mass production and, our culture today of disposable culture, right? Where we're take, make, waste. People did used to reuse or repair and share much more than they are doing today. So I think part of this discussion is how do we harken back to some of those behaviors that we know so well that our parents, our grandparents used to do. But today, what's different is that our modern digital tools allow us to return to those systems, but in a way that's seamless, convenient, and secure. So I spend a lot of time at Mastercard thinking about how can we make the circular economy even more seamless, convenient, and secure than a linear economy. And some interesting stats. You asked, how big is the circular economy? Our Mastercard Economics Institute just released a report in 2024 that said that 27% of all online luxury apparel spend comes from circular merchants, just like Depop. So pretty incredible that more than a quarter of all online luxury spend for apparel is coming from those types of merchants.
What about on a community level? What kind of impact does it make on a community level?
So at the community level, we're definitely seeing potential for the circular economy to help rebuild local economic networks. So we focus a lot at Mastercard, of course, on small businesses, and they're really creating hyper-local supply chains. So local repair shops, secondhand stores, rental services, return and reuse programs. So if you take the growing market for secondhand sports equipment, for example, again, the Mastercard Economics Institute is really useful here. They just published some recent data that circular sports sales are up 11% year to date. And for comparison, the total sporting goods category grew 3% year to date. If we look at the levels compared to 2022, That market is up 30%. But with the help of digital transactions and digital platforms and technology from companies like Mastercard, community level sharing and swapping is being aggregated into these bigger global economic trends. I think McKinsey estimated the circular economy could generate about 4.5 trillion in economic benefits by 2030. It's really happening through thousands of these small business innovations, not just big corporate initiatives.
How much of this do you think is about the ease of use versus the marketing around, hey, we should all care about the planet?
My honest opinion, if we just focused on those that are aligned with, or focused on, we need to do this for the good of the planet, that's kind of a small, market, still growing. But the idea that this could be better in general, not just more sustainable, but it's easier, it's faster, it's cheaper. Oftentimes, like those core benefits certainly speak to a broader economic base, a broader community, broader marketplace, more consumers than ever before. We're seeing these markets shift as we're seeing customer preferences shift, as we're also seeing generally prices rising, right? If it can be cheaper to buy something secondhand or to repair something than buy something new, people are interested in that. And that's how we're going to get this regenerative, more sustainable economy that is truly circular at scale.
When you look at small business owners and small businesses, what opportunities do they have to participate in this economy?
So, at Mastercard, we're focusing on powering economies and empowering people. So we aim to inspire, inform, and enable people to make more environmentally conscious choices. Learning from our broad global network, which includes, there are more than 150 million acceptance locations, places around the world you can use your Mastercard. We have thousands of banking partners and other customers, and the consumers and businesses around the world carry more than 3.4 billion Mastercards. Well, we know that consumers want products that last, services that save money, experiences that are seamless and reflect their values. And we know that circularity really delivers on all three. So as small businesses are aiming to grow and become more efficient and resourceful and take and meet their consumers' demands, they've got a lot to gain from leaning into the circular economy. Some of the challenges that I think we're seeing is right now, sustainable choices are often perceived as some of the hardest ones to make, right? They're more expensive, they're less convenient, they're confusing, or sometimes they're just not available at scale. So, we've been thinking about what happens if we flip that equation. That's where our payments technology can come in and play a real role, where small businesses can find some of the greatest opportunities, and they can really lean into the biggest areas of some of the consumer-driven emissions, right? So we're committed to supporting small businesses across our network to thrive through, all sorts of solutions to make it easier, better, faster, and cheaper.
I imagine, Ellen, there must be something around employee retention too. Have you seen that where employees are happier working for an organization that is part of the circular economy?
Well, I think in general, employees these days are looking to align their values more so than ever before with the corporations that they work for, the organizations they're a part of. For example, we've also been investing in reusable cup programs and how can we use technology that Mastercard has. It's called Mastercard Move. It's payments disbursement technology to enable near instant return of a deposit that you might make on a reusable cup. So for example, there's a town in Denmark, Aarhus, where the whole town has decided to shift towards reusable cups. So if you go into a cafe or to a fast casual restaurant and you buy a sparkling water or soda or a beer or a coffee, it'll come in a reusable cup. In Denmark, you pay an extra 5 kroner for that. Then you consume your beverage. When you're finished, in the center of town, there are about 30 reverse vending machines where you place your cup back in the vending machine and you tap your Mastercard and you get the 5 kroner back. You've rented that cup, right, for that experience. And the community loves it because it's cleaning up the town. You don't see the single-use cups smashed on the ground. There isn't a cost element to it, right, because you get your 5 kroner back. It's easy. So everybody wins, right? The businesses win, the community wins, the planet wins. And just like the employees, right? I think they're looking for examples like that they can be proud of. And I will also just add, at Mastercard, the way we think about this is all of our employees, all 35,000 employees are part of our sustainability team, if you will. They understand the strategy, and we have training for all of our new hires that explains this. Our philosophy of doing well by doing good. So our employees are thrilled with these types of programs, and I think we certainly see benefits of retention.
Rachel, we've talked about companies that are in the retail space doing this. You are one of them. So I'm excited to hear from you. You're the CFO of Depop. It was bought by Etsy in 2021. First, tell us what Depop is for those in the audience who might not have heard of it before, and how you're so committed to the circular economy within fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of that resonated, Ellen, in terms of what you were talking about. Depop is essentially an online peer-to-peer marketplace where anyone can buy or sell secondhand fashion. And at the core of our mission is to make fashion circular. So we want to make secondhand fashion as exciting and accessible to as many people as possible. And one of the most critical things in terms of converting more people to secondhand is that we've got to offer this really compelling alternative to new. To Ellen's points around it still has to be fast and easy and accessible, alongside this proposition that we offer around the impact that you're having on the environment through the choices that you're making. So it's an incredibly important part of how we scale and our strategy at large. And it means delivering an experience that is exciting and inspiring, but can compete with this alternative retail experience at the same time as offering this value-added, more sustainable way of consuming. And we know that resonates. We have about 43 million registered users, and they're roughly loading up about 400,000 new listings every day. So it's resonating. Part of that success is driven, to Ellen's point, around the fact that we sit at this cross-section between fashion and sustainability and value. We offer the opportunity to find the things that you love at a much better price point. And consumers don't want to compromise across those three pillars, and we believe that they shouldn't have to either. So essentially, our kind of mandate is we believe that everything you want already exists, and our role is to make it as easy and as exciting as possible for you to find it. So it's not just about efficiency and functionality of the product. That's not going to draw millions of users to circular fashion. We've got to have an intuitive, reliable product alongside a really exciting, rewarding destination to find the things you want.
Since Depop started, do you think consumer sentiment has changed at all around buying used clothing?
I think there's definitely a shift happening in the market. Like the market is going through a change where it's becoming much more commonplace and acceptable to shop secondhand. And I certainly think that different demographics are adopting in different ways. Younger demographics are much faster adopters of secondhand fashion. They're normalizing it. It's becoming part of pop culture, and you're seeing celebrities celebrating the fact that they're wearing secondhand clothing. And that's creating like much more adoption. But what's really interesting is that we're now seeing that spread across different demographics, and fashion's also triggering, a habit and a behavior that's then accelerating purchasing preferences across other categories. So there is a big shift happening, and it's happening at pace. This industry is growing at 3 times the pace as retail.
Let's talk about travel now. So you've partnered at Mastercard with a lot of tourist attractions and even cities. Talk about some of the results for organizations and the small businesses involved in some of the things you've been working on.
There is one specific example that I think really illustrates, and we've got the numbers to back it up, kind of the savings, that win-win-win that we can create. So there's a place called Blenheim Palace. I don't know if you've ever been. It's in the United Kingdom. It's where Winston Churchill was born, just outside of Oxford. So you can go, tourists come, visit the palace, beautiful, learn about the history. There's gorgeous grounds. You can walk around the grounds. There's also a cafe and a pizza parlor. So when you're there, right, you might want a beverage. So you go into the cafe, you get your coffee or your tea, and the barista hands it to you and says, here is a reusable cup. I'm going to charge you an extra £2 for that cup. Enjoy it around the grounds. And when you're finished, you'll find those similar reverse vending machines to what I was talking about in Denmark. And you place your cup in, you tap your Mastercard or other card, and the £2 comes back. And what's really interesting here is, what are the numbers behind this? So Blenheim Palace used to spend about £100,000 a year on single-use disposable cups. After implementing this process, they're now spending about £50,000. So they cut their costs in half. right? Their CFO, so Rachel's counterpart at
Very
Blenheim
happy.
Palace, is thrilled, right? He's like, how fast can we do this with the cold cups? Because right now we're only doing it with the coffee and the tea, the hot cups. How fast can we do it with the cold cups? Can we do it with pizza boxes? What else can we do this with? Because wow, it is driving, results to my bottom line. We're saving money as an organization. The other interesting thing is their customer engagement surveys, satisfaction surveys. The scores have gone up. There's just something about, it's a small action, right? Putting that cup back in the reverse vending machine that makes you feel good. And of course, there's the savings to the planet, right? There's the carbon savings. There's the waste savings. I think so far, the program has saved over 120,000 cups that have been diverted from landfills. So it's finding these systems, right, that are easy, that are convenient, right, that make people feel good, that drive real impact. The business impact, that doing well, where Blenheim Palace sees that they are saving money by doing good, right, offering a reusable cup that reduces waste and reduces carbon.
Yeah, I think that is really the key, is that you have to be at least at parity with the destructive behavior. You can't be worse. That's not going to motivate the vast majority of people. You have to be at parity, hopefully better. And then you get the added, oh, I also feel good about this, which I think is the sort of key combination that both of you put together. Rachel, one thing that I think is so neat about Depop is not only did you get all of these people to clean out their closets, change the way people think about buying secondhand clothing, better for the planet, better for our pocketbooks, but you've also had all these spin-off small businesses that came out of Depop, which goes beyond people just cleaning out their closet. So talk to me about some of those stories.
Yeah, I love this question because it's genuinely inspiring working for a company that you see the product, it's able to influence people's lives, and however big or small we're having impact. There's a real amazing spectrum of engaged users on our platform. But it's a really good example of how we can be, the proof of the economic potential of resale and the positive impact that you can have from a social perspective. Depop essentially acts as an on-ramp for entrepreneurs, and it's really helping to democratize access to fashion. So anyone can set up a shop on Depop, and we have thousands of sellers who are making full-time living from this circular fashion economy on our platform. If I look back to when we were founded, over the period, the community has made over $5 billion on Depop, which is an incredible number. And half of our sellers, when we surveyed them in 2023, said that Depop is either their main source of income or a supplementary source of income. So it's a really powerful lever. And we have this amazing diverse community, and that spectrum shows up in our seller community. And it goes from kind of full-time entrepreneurs to side hustlers to people who, to your point, are just refreshing their wardrobe as they go into the new season. And behind all of those amazing, diverse community are real human stories. So we have mums listing their jeans from the early 2000s to help make ends meet. Or we've got, a seller who is hand painting denim and upcycling vintage sheets and now like setting up their own stores, or Sabrina Carpenter's wearing them. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have, enterprise sellers and brands that are choosing Depop as their e-commerce platform of choice, given the access we give them to this really engaged community in the resale space. So Depop, more than just a marketplace, it's a platform to express yourself, to earn income, and to be part of like something much, much bigger in terms of economic opportunity.
I want to ask you both how we keep people from greenwashing, basically saying the environmental impact is much bigger than it actually is. And I want to give you guys just a quick example from my life. I worked for a company at some point, and they had this was 20 years ago, this big environmental push. And to kick it off, and it was a pretty large company, they gave everyone these plastic Frisbees. These cheap plastic Frisbees celebrating their environmental push. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is just for marketing. Clearly, you wouldn't be giving me something that is absolutely ending up in the landfill if you truly believed this. And you're not doing your homework here. So how do we, as the public, know that what companies are saying they're doing, they're actually doing?
Yeah, I think this is an incredibly important question for the industry, an industry that's relatively immature when you think about it in terms of growth. And Like at Depop, we know that sustainability can't just be like an assumed natural output of our business. We have to embed it into everything that we do. And I think as part of that, like trust and transparency is incredibly essential. We know that our users care really deeply about the impact they're having on the environment, and our job is to educate them on the importance of their selling and buying purchasing choices and the impact that has. So we share at regular intervals through the year how the individuals and how Depop at large is contributing to carbon and water savings, for example, so people can see those real world differences. And we celebrate that as a positive impact and share it so that we can engage broader communities. I think that taking a step back in terms of the industry at large, one of the most important things is that people are consistent in how they think about how you measure these things, and that there's not, greenwashing happening or different approaches happening in terms of measurement that causes this disconnect. And so we recently refreshed our impact goals across like a number of different pillars, from circularity to net zero emission reductions. And part of informing that was engaging more broadly with our peer group in the industry and WRAP, which is the Waste and Resources Action Programme, to contribute to this standardized framework across the industry for measuring circular fashion and thinking about how business models like resale can offset demand and how we demonstrate that in a really consistent way. So yeah, I think grounding your impacts in reliable, transparent data, being consistent, having consistency and rallying together as an industry is incredibly important as we move forward.
I think, Ellen, it's interesting because it's hard to get to all of the costs and all of the benefits, because definitely there are some hidden costs probably around transporting these clothes back and forth or cleaning them. But there are also all kinds of hidden benefits, which are the ripple effects on the environment, that are also hard to quantify at this point.
We're all becoming much more sophisticated in terms of what really is positive environmental impact, what really is driving negative environmental impact, right? Remember when the Prius came out and everyone was having arguments over, okay, well, the Prius is using, renewable energy, but what happens to the battery? So how do you know? I mentioned earlier that, part of Mastercard's role is to inspire, inform, and enable. And that inform piece is a piece we take really seriously. So we have a product, our carbon calculator. And to Rachel's point about measurement, that carbon calculator offers Mastercard cardholders the opportunity to, at the end of the month when you get your bill, it has everything that you've bought and the estimated financial impact, right? The financial dollars that you've spent. But it also has the estimated carbon impact of that purchase. Now, I say estimated because life cycle assessments for all products in the world are not complete. There's still debate and evolution to how we're measuring all these things and how companies are measuring all their products and services that they're selling. So right now we've got that data available at the sector level, but over time it's going to get more granular. It's going to go to the merchant level and eventually to the SKU level. We're also working with our merchants to move it not just post-transaction after you've bought something, but how can we work with the merchants to provide it before you've bought something so that information can be useful in your purchase. Now, again, there's still plenty of debate about how do you accurately calculate an LCA? How does that calculation improve year over year as we get more precise in how we measure these types of things? So we're getting more sophisticated as companies that create products and services. We're getting more sophisticated in how to share that information at the right point in time so people can use it. But there's lots that goes into this. It's extremely complex, and we'll continue, I think, to improve our processes across the ecosystem of, the merchants, the banks, the consumers, to be able to purchase more sustainably and more circular.
Yeah, what's neat is because of AI too, we're going to be able to look at this data much faster than we have in the past. And I think there'll be changes, positive changes because of that going forward. Rachel, are there any really interesting trends that you're seeing in the industry that you're excited about?
So many things. This industry is, as I said earlier, it's kind of relatively immature, and we're going through this period of change where circular fashion becomes, bigger, more mainstream and more widely expected, to some of the points we were touching on earlier. And fashion is definitely at the tip of that spear as it expands more into other purchases in your life, and you build these habits around buying secondhand as a normality. I think one of the other trends that you've just touched on as well is around the role that AI can play. And certainly in Depop, we're leveraging this in many ways. And it's linked to the point around how do we build and create a very credible solution to the alternative, which is retail. So we need to make things simpler, easier, and safer for users on our platform. So we're leveraging AI for things like photo editing tools, auto description features when you're listing to make that experience super quick and easy, to enhance our recommendations when you're searching for a product, but also introducing features leveraging AI and ML models to make our community safe as they operate on the platform. So ultimately, we're going to be able to leverage AI to entice people into resale, to provide that credible alternative experience and make it a really exciting place to come and explore your fashion needs. So yeah, I think that's going to be an ongoing theme in terms of how we think about it externally, the data, but also how players in this space are leveraging AI to create an amazing experience for our users.
I'm just really excited when I get to upload myself and get a true vision of what I'm going to look like in the clothes. And then my returns will go way down. And I know it's coming soon. It's coming soon. All right, Ellen,
We're exploring that.
Ellen, what are you most excited about?
Well, I'll build on, the opportunities that AI is presenting in terms of driving agentic commerce. And so that's really where technology can act on our behalf to make better decisions automatically, right? So imagine being able to direct your digital wallet to choose the lowest carbon shipping option by default, or your payment settings automatically applying loyalty rewards towards circular purchases. So I think there's so many exciting innovations that we're right at the tip of, encouraging auto repairs over replacement. That opens the doors, for companies to earn more per item, right? So when we think about how the business models are going to change for all of us, as well as, of course, the environmental benefits as well. So I'm very excited about the future, about how AI can help us live a more sustainable life as well. And of course, data-driven optimization. So real-time tracking helps refine the system over time. It helps, understand where you're actually getting the impact that you've hopefully designed in the system or not. So those are, I think, some of the ways that you can make the biggest impact.
Completely agree with everything you just said. The other bit that I'd in, which is like really critical to the Depop business model, is listening to your community. So they're going to tell you what resonates and where the real opportunities lie. And we have learned so much from our community around the support they need, the tools they need to thrive. And that feedback directly shapes our roadmap of how we evolve the platform. So think about your customers and what they need to thrive, and listen to that is incredibly important. It's not just the environmental impacts that they're looking for. It's, can it create new opportunities for me? Can we create new revenue streams for these people? Can this resale space build a new brand identity for me as a business and help me resonate more with customers who have a real passion for this sustainability space? So yeah, listen to your customers, definitely.
And one last question. I'll start with you, Rachel. What can policymakers do? What can industry leaders do to support small businesses who want to make this change?
I think as we evolve, we need an environment where both digitally and from a regulatory perspective, it encourages participation in this change and shift to resale and a more sustainable way of buying and selling. So really, we need our policy makers to enable the removal of barriers to entry. So helping individuals who are looking to engage in the circular economy take their first step into that space. We supported an initiative recently, which was the launch of the Recommerce Caucus. And that was a really crucial step forward in thinking about the power of recommerce to fuel entrepreneurship, promote sustainability, and create more inclusive economic opportunities for people. So there's a really important role for us to play as players in the industry in influencing policymakers as well, and ensuring that we create the right platform for people to come and engage in this new way of shopping.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about it from the small business, perspective that you asked about, small businesses represent about 90% of all businesses, right? They generate more than half of the global gross domestic product, employ, I think, as much as 70% of the world's workforce, right? Their critical role in the global economy demonstrates the massive economic impact potential when we get sustainability support right for small businesses. So, the next generation of circularity smart businesses, I think, are being propelled by digital tools. And when we think about it from a policy and regulatory point of view, the countries that are really leading, embracing circularity, Netherlands, France, parts of the US, are empowering small businesses with regulatory support that encourage that transition. France, I think, was the first country to introduce a legal ban on the destruction of unsold products. So requiring businesses to either donate them or recycle them. So certain regulations like that, I think, start opening up for more innovation of how do we keep the value of what is already in the economy versus putting it in a landfill. So lots of opportunity, again, to do well by doing good that supports the whole ecosystem, the economy, creates jobs, drives value. I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Well, I think this is exciting. Ellen Jackowski, Chief Sustainability Officer at Mastercard, Rachel McShane, Chief Financial Officer at Depop, thank you so much.
Thanks, JJ.
Thanks so much for having me.
This has been an episode of Local to Global, the power of small business. For GZERO's Blue Circle Studios, I'm JJ Ramberg. We'll be back soon with an episode on urban mobility. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.